I'm Tom. I'm one of the poultry vets at Poultry Health, and we're based out of Airdrie, and we have an office in BC and in Ontario as well. So we do mostly commercial poultry work with the big barns and the big companies, but I've done diagnostics since I started, and I get to teach at the University of Calgary as well. So theoretically, I'm an expert on poultry diseases. I'm learning new stuff from the birds every day. It's very humbling. But yeah, I was excited for the invitation and just came mostly to answer questions, kind of popcorn style, I think was the format. And then I have tons of presentations and materials. And we can go into as much or as little detail as you like. So they want to be at 15, 16 degrees. 18 or 20 is a happy place for them. So they can handle some lower temperatures. They're gonna feather up, but remember they're coming from a barn and they've been in a cage. And they're also going to have some trouble transitioning to the water and stuff. So, paying a little bit of attention to them. And I used to have to train turkeys how to drink when I worked on the research farm. And so, if you just splash around and play with them and show them where their new water source is, because they've been drinking from a nipple drinker in a barn, and they're going to have to switch over to this. So they're, having some time to spend with them and play with them a little bit, and poke the water with a pencil or a straw and show them where the water's at. They'll learn pretty quickly, but it's a big transition to go from where they've been living into that coop. So
this will actually seem really huge compared to what you're used to?
Well, it's going to be a lot more space, but what you'll find is they'll actually kind of huddle up and stick together. So it's a neat little system. It looks a lot like our rabbit hutch at home that we built.
And the nice thing with this mat is it's thermostatically controlled, so it will shut off. It won't just keep heating. Whereas the lamp would. But with this, because it has its own thermostat, it'll shut off to where it doesn't keep heating.
That's a really good point. Like if those are in two different places, and if it's too hot, the chicken can go where it wants to go. But if it can't get away from the temperature, they can't thermal regulate. So, just thinking like a chicken. Two things I want to tell you super quick. If you want them to lay in this little nest box here, is put in a little bit of AstroTurf, or just put in some of the shavings, because then they're going to want to go in there and lay. Otherwise, you're going to go find a shady spot somewhere else where they're happy to lay eggs. So if you want the eggs in there, the nice thing about the AstroTurf is you can take it out and clean it, because you're going to get a lot of poop in there, and then the eggs get dirty. And it's natural, but it's not very nice. So I put in a little bit of AstroTurf. You can clean that up pretty good.
And you can kind of fasten like your own little mat that would go in there, just like the way that this is here. Just something that is about the same size, so you can just kind of lift it and shake it off, something that. Yeah. I'm kind of almost thinking about it when you're cooking something, if you're breaking a loaf and you have the parchment paper that kind of is just easy to take everything out versus trying to scoop all of the shavings upwards. This is kind of tricky. I made banana bread yesterday and I'm upset that I didn't have that. I didn't have parchment paper underneath. It's glued to the pan now. And then just as the last little thing that's included is going to be the feeder, so that one's down here, and Brandi will kind of talk a little bit more about that, about how it can adjust how much feed comes out, and then so the water, so kind of wherever you want to put it. If you want to put it outside of the coop when you expand it, that's fine too. So that's kind of everything that's included there. There is you can kind of weave this through if you want to put it actually in the top here.
I just think that would be too much heat for the
size.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's nice to kind of spread it out. So you could even before you assemble this, you can kind of before this piece goes on top, is that you can kind of weave it through the extension cord so that it hangs here. So this will be the coldest spot, and then Eldra was kind of mentioning how Eldra was our first kind of chicken mentor. She was just saying that when it got really cold, when she had a smaller coop, she would just drape rugs or things like that, old towels or kind of heavier ones, just to kind of block some of the wind out and retain a little bit more of the heat. So.
And we always have extra pallets at the store for take them home, use them, make them milk, whatever with them. 'Cause we get lots and lots of meat, so you're welcome to them. For hay as well. We
So
just
how
have to
many,
get rid
how
of
many diseases should we really be concerned about?
Yeah, I was trying to think about that when I left, and I called one of my colleagues to say what's the biggest thing to think about. Probably ILT is the biggest one. And I was thinking for the program is just sending a vial of vaccine for you guys when you get the chickens. So the smallest dose, they come in 1,000 doses is the smallest vial. But if we do the eye drop vaccine when you get your chickens, that's going to be the biggest disease to be concerned about. In terms of the bird's health, and again, I was talking about stuff that's important for your health, like salmonella and any contaminants that you give the birds or they pick up on their own. But
What's your suggestion for mice?
the mites, don't get
Seems how
them.
the good stuff's gone.
Don't get them. So there are different types of mites. There's a scaly leg mite, which is gonna your chicken's legs are gonna start to get really thick and kind of like calloused, and those ones are a real rascal. There's a few treatments that you can use that are going to have an egg withdrawal, and the big thing is to figure out what you're dealing with. So taking a picture, sharing that with your veterinarian. You're going to need to go to a vet to get those products anyway.
How about for lice?
What's that?
How about lice?
Well, for bites and lice, I mean, ivermectin's going to work for most of them, but it's going to have like 21 or 28 days egg withdrawal. So if your chickens are there for eggs, that's not going to be a good idea for you. There's a product called Exult, which is crazy expensive. And again, everything for commercial poultry comes in really big doses and containers. So someone like Heather might buy a bottle and then like do little pharmacy aliquots out for small flocks. So I don't do that. I deal with the really big systems, so I don't have anything broken out like that. But she'll call us too if she sees something weird, and we always go back and forth and share advice. So if you're working with her, or I'm trying to think if there's anyone closer, but I think she's the closest.
She's the only one, because honestly, I was sending them to an exotic bird vet in Airdrie.
Okay,
Because
yeah,
nobody would deal with chickens.
yeah. And Ken Keeler, there's a guy in Drumheller who's a good
Yeah.
bird vet. So the government lab in Airdrie, I don't know if you know where the Airdrie Egg Center is. You guys wouldn't get up in Airdrie. They'll do free diagnostics. So if your bird dies, that'll be some of the information on the email, or you can send them there. There's very few people who will look at a sick chicken and give it back to you. Like my diagnostics would be all with birds that have already died. But yeah, the Airdrie Egg Center is the big one now. The government will do free diagnostics for you there.
Are they offering
Airdrie Egg Center.
Eggs.
Agriculture, AG.
I was thinking EGG.
Airdrie Egg Center.
Egg Center sounds legit. All right.
There's an Eggs Oasis.
I know, like I was just like, are we just
You just skip this whole chicken thing and just go for breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is perfect.
So if they do die, how do we properly dispose of them?
Well, yeah, so you could use a burn barrel or whatever, but don't leave them for natural disposal, because that's really going to draw the predators in.
Yeah.
And then they're going to say, hey, that tastes good and it looks just like the ones over there, and then you'll have trouble with that.
So for
If you have a burn barrel, that works good. It also contains the disease, right?
And when you're talking about a burn barrel, like can you just maybe
Fire pit.
Fire pit. Okay.
Yeah, if you're,
In
I
other
guess we're
words,
not supposed to burn
burn
garbage
barrels,
anymore.
Yeah.
but I still burn little garbage in my house.
I burn
Those
them.
of us that can still do.
what's the best thing, like effective disposal, like when we're cleaning up the,
Shavings and all that.
yeah, cleaning food.
That honestly, chicken poop is one of your better fertilizers. So if you want to turn it into your garden and stuff, as long as you don't have sick chickens.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can,
So you can make it compost?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, for sure.
Can you put it directly on there or you have to use it?
Chicken can go directly. Horse manure is the one that has to sit for your ammonia factors.
But in terms of like if it's for, like if you were gonna be growing carrots or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah.
It's
Fertilizer's
It's a
fertilizer.
great fertilizer, yeah.
It's one of the best. It's just, I used to spread manure, and we did a chicken farm once a year. Oh, it's horrible. The smell, and it just runs, and it's not nice stuff, but boy, it grows nice stuff.
You know what I think smells worse though? Pigs.
Yeah, it's kind of a 50-50, I'd say, because you gotta.
I think
figure
rotten
you-
potatoes is the worst smell. I'm a vegetarian, I know a lot of bad smell.
I had
Yeah, that's
pigs
not a
and-
good smell.
and they were-
You know, one thing I would do with this, and I have some,
When we went to the rodeo, whenever we would pass this big truck that will haul pigs,
No.
I never used to, I couldn't stand that smell.
you might want to, like I have some research chickens right now, and we have trays like this that we clean that are plastic, and we actually put butcher paper on there because it's a lot easier to take out and clean. Now you can, if you get paper that's got the wax on it, you can just till it into your garden or dump it out
Brown
there.
paper bags from Safeway.
Hey, that's a great idea. Because this is gonna be a rascal to clean.
Yeah, I can see that already.
Like
You have to
for,
wash it
Yeah,
every time, and
it'll
then your
probably
wood's gonna start
get
to.
stick on
And you end
there.
up scraping it or something, so, I mean, I like the coop, I'm just looking at that thinking. I don't-
Save yourself a step.
Yeah, okay, I see.
Yeah, the paper bag's a great idea.
What about the wasps? They're gonna love to eat that.
Wasps? But chickens will like to eat them too,
Yeah,
so
huh?
Okay.
it'll be a showdown.
That nice.
and last time we kind of talked a little bit about, like we kind of had a whole spiel about winter safety and just keeping them warm. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about like putting the petroleum jelly.
Yeah, I had mentioned that petroleum jelly on the home and the legs on the like minus 40 days kind of premise. But for the size of the coop, I think they should be fine warmth-wise and that. But if you're worried, you can Vaseline their comb or their legs, because that'll help with frostbite. Because otherwise it'll turn black.
And I did have a participant from last year, I want to say that one of her chickens froze over this past weekend. So this past weekend wasn't really that cold.
Yeah.
So
There's that wind.
yeah, the wind. So just being cognizant that even on a time when it's not minus 40 or minus 30, that even like these like minus 15 and the wind chill kind of days really are hard on the chickens. The coops from last year though are like much taller and they require a lot more for staying warm. There's no heater involved. We just got discounts on the heaters. That's kind of what we did last year. And then they were insulated, but these ones aren't insulated but have a heater, so we'll kind of see how it goes.
Well, it did get really cold this week because my washing machine froze.
Really?
Yeah. I don't have too much insulation on the extension that we built.
Yeah.
But yeah, the washing machine froze.
Yeah, there was some cold temperatures. I was surprised. I thought it was supposed to get a little nicer.
Maybe it was just a hermit this week.
Oh, burner weather. They say it can look
It's March.
deceiving, eh?
Yeah, I was in Saskatchewan last night, it was minus 29.
Oh. Well, and I heard that there was a bunch of trucks that couldn't even drive
It was really
yesterday
bad roads, yeah.
because it was so bad. They were just all hunkered down.
Did anyone have birds last year? Anyone in this?
Our sister, yeah, but they froze.
She had some,
December like was.
Oh, that long stretch.
How they died was, I guess they pushed themselves to one corner of their coop, and they kind of froze there, so now they got like one.
Oh. Yeah, they're amazingly smart, but amazingly stupid sometimes.
well, they don't have a big brain, but it makes sense to them.
Right?
So
One
if,
of my favorite movies is Chicken Run. I love that.
Just name all your chickens after the chickens in the show. That's perfect.
one little tip I'll give you if you're new to chickens is birds are used to being predated from above. So if you do anything above a bird or even put a shadow over top of a bird, they're going to be pretty stressed. And most of their predators come from above. So if you want to grab them and if you get down next to them and you just pick them up by the legs, So if you kind of sneak up on them, I'm not as flexible as I used to be, but if you grab them from underneath, that's a lot less stressful. You're gonna put a lot less energy into it. But anything you do above a chicken, it's very threatening.
Like when the kids are running at them like this.
Yeah, and so if you run around the yard and you can't catch them because you're coming from above, if you just try and sneak down next to them,
See what I used to use? A coat hanger.
Yeah.
they
A
know.
little hook on it, and I grab the hook and just yank it.
That's awesome.
That's how I always catch them.
That's,
Did you say that the last time you can put it, you tap them somewhere and?
Yeah, you can like just tap them on the back. So Burton was talking about, Burton's a previous participant, and he was mentioning how if you just like give them a little tap on the back, it kind of just makes them like stop.
well, that coat hanger trick is really, that's what we do in the big barns. We have a little hook to grab them by the leg. But you have to describe what to do with it because you're not just using a regular coat hanger, right? You have to bend it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, just like a little shepherd's skirt kind of thing.
So you, what did you do? Did you straighten yours out and then bend one corner back?
Yeah. It's like official.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice actually.
Different
Extra 2 feet.
techniques. So yeah.
Well, the ravens will take them,
Okay.
yeah. Because I know we had 2 ravens try and take a full-size duck. And they got them 10 feet off the ground before they dropped them. So don't trust any of them.
Everyone likes chicken.
And pine martens love to just kill them. They'll go in, kill the whole flock, and then leave. They won't eat them, they won't nothing. They'll just go in and kill them.
Which bird is that?
Martins,
Oh.
martins and weasels.
Huh.
It's just fun for them.
Huh.
And it's hard to see because it's only those little punctures, so it's hard to tell when they've been in. But usually if that happens, it's a martin got in or a weasel.
You know, it's the same with us and our rabbits at home, and they're pets. They're not food animals, our rabbits. But we bring them some grass and we keep them protected. Because they'll break their back too if the dogs run at them. So I mean, if you want them, people like kind of the old country style, the romantic thing where chickens run around, but they'll get picked off and hurt and injured. So if you really want to bring grass or some things to them, having them contained. Now it's a choice, but free-run chickens their days are numbered.
Okay.
And like a lot of people will make chicken tractors, and what those are, it's just an enclosed frame that you can pick up and move. So you can take your chickens out to free range and just move them all over your property, but you have a covered. And what a lot of people do is they use PVC because it's super light, and then you just run your chicken wire over it, and you got a perfect enclosed, and you can move them all over. You can take them out to the garden and let them eat the garden,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. It just
Because they love the
Gives the
bugs and
option.
the grass and stuff. Like they really like it. But if you like them, I always say if you love it, I used to do the little pet birds. If someone has a $10,000 parakeet, I promise you it's in a cage.
Yeah.
It's not free run. So there's,
that's what's nice with the chicken tractors is they're protected that way. But yet they can still be out and you can take them all over the place.
it's a good idea.
I just the thought of that. I was just thinking like if you could just put this like on wheels, and then like.
Yeah.
But then I realized it doesn't really help from like the fertilizing standpoint. But this is really nice in terms of if you do want to kind of just move it around your like from different points around your house, as long as it's kind of not with wind going directly into your house, because that's not going to be a nice smell. But the benefit of it being so small is that you can kind of move it around your enclosure that you make, and then it just fertilizes each spot. So that's kind of nice about it.
We did talk about last week that you may want to stake a couple corners
Oh yeah.
just because of the blowover factor.
Yeah,
Or-
especially here.
Or a
with the
dog.
wind.
I mean,
Bear.
easy enough, yeah, bears, whatever. I mean, a bear, I think you'd just toast it. It's just a happy meal.
Yeah, happy meal.
A nice little box full of chicken nuggets.
And I don't think that like peppermint's gonna do it much for bears, but we did talk about last time with peppermint oil and peppermint leaves being put around the coop really deter coyotes and weasels and some birds as well. So the smell makes them upset.
That stuff is supposed to be pretty good too for like lice and mice and all those things.
Yep. Keeps the mice away, but chickens like mice, so it doesn't really matter either way. Extra protein.
The chickens eat mice.
Oh yeah, they're horrible little carnivores. If you watch them, like if they get one, and all the whole group's there, it's like Braveheart. And he just draw it. And then there's other chickens that look at him and go, nope, and walk away.
I'm better than this.
Yeah, I don't eat meat.
Oh, yeah, you know, sometimes you'll see people will talk about, you know, giving eggshells back to the chickens. So it is a good calcium source, but once your chickens start eating eggs, once they figure out how delicious eggs are, you can run into trouble, they'll start eating their own eggs. Yeah. So don't get, I would recommend not giving, if you're getting a complete feed, that's gonna give them all the calcium they need, and maybe a bit of limestone or something, but don't give them shells back, and picking up the eggs and getting the broken ones out of there is a good idea.
What if you grind them?
As long as they don't figure out, they don't
Yeah,
make
that's
the
the
connection.
biggest thing, yeah. Some people, they'll grind them with a little coffee vinegar, just to throw it back in, and then that way they can't tell it's a shell. Because they are smart that way. They figure, even the tiniest little chip, they're
Do you
like,
guys have do you sell limestone like a number 3, 4?
yeah. And the main layer we sell, that we get made up for us has grit in it.
Has some grit in it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't have to buy the two separate, it's already all put together.
And grit, just a reminder for everyone, it was in, I think, the handout the first time. Like, grit is there because they don't have teeth, like beaks, or there's no teeth there. So to really like break down their food, they have this thing called grit, which is almost kind of like, if you could imagine like rocks or pebbles or things like that, that kind of mix with everything to help grind it into smaller pieces, so that when it moves to their
Gizzard.
crop, gizzard, making up new words, when it moves down, that it's easier for them to digest. So if you were going to give a chicken like just straight up rice
And
or scratch or grains, like just oatmeal, they're just not going to have a way to digest it properly, and it's going to expand a lot. So that's going to be really difficult on their digestive system.
But with the layer you guys will be getting, it's already in the layer, so
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about it. It's already in.
I hope that I was right on that.
Other than freezing, did you guys hear about any disease problems in the birds from last year or the year before? Or any?
I haven't heard of anything at the store either. Everybody's been.
The big thing was grandkids opening the coops.
Death by grandkids.
That was like for sure 3 people. And then there was, freezing was another one. And I think there was a grandparent that did it too. So grandparents and grandchildren, either one. I remember there was somebody else that, had something like that. But in terms of diseases, the only thing was really like the molting, like just wondering why chickens were losing their feathers. And Burton had talked about them not having enough water being one of them, and then they were sucking out like the liquid from their eggs as well. But I don't know if you have more to say on like molting.
Well, molting can be a natural thing if you take away feed or the daylight decreases, right? So the birds will come in and out of egg production based on the daylight. So if they don't have enough daylight, they can go into a molt. And water restriction is the biggest thing. Like, that's not a disease that causes a drop in egg production. If they can't get enough water, they can't put down that albumin on their egg, and they'll just stop laying. A lot of them will come back in again, but water restriction is the big one. And nutritional stress. If they don't have enough nutrition, they'll stop laying again, just to save their life, right? They don't have the energy to make the eggs, so they stop making them.
And that could be the drawback of like putting the rugs or the mats over the coop, because then they're not gonna, if it's a really cold, like let's say stretch of -20 to -30, and you're not letting the chickens out at all, and then they're gonna have the darkness all day, that could be something that could affect how many eggs you're getting.
And you can use your heat lamp to mimic daytime by putting just a regular bulb in. But you don't want to go 24/7 with it. You want to make sure it's timed. And then there's another option to pull in. So.
I was thinking of, because I have a barn, and I was thinking for the winter time I would keep them in there. So for daylight, what can I do then? Like, 'cause my barn gets kind of pretty dark.
Just leave a light on a timer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
Another issue that people ran into that wasn't really a disease, but was from like the like too big of eggs coming out and it damaging the chicken.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, that's probably, so the biggest thing that drives egg size is protein. And so the ration will be balanced, but then if they go and eat a whole bunch of bugs, or you're giving them if you're giving them meat or something, you can actually end up with lots of protein and the egg can get pretty big. You're gonna see all sorts of weird different shapes of eggs and slab-sided and wrinkled eggs and stuff. If you see it for a long time, it might be from a disease or something, but if you just see one or two, you know, not every egg is perfect. If the bird gets stressed or there's a challenge when it's laying an egg, you could end up with some wrinkles or some abnormalities. But the biggest thing is nutrition.
And
What do you suggest for egg bound? We discussed the warm bath.
I haven't, so first thing I should say is like, when
what
I
is
said,
egg bound?
yeah, in my world, if most of the birds that get sick get euthanized and they come to the post-mortem room. So in terms of bird medicine, I'm not very good at all. Like when I say that a sick chicken is a dead chicken, in the rest of the industry, that's my experience. So I don't have a lot of expertise on treating some of those conditions. Well, I have almost no expertise on treating.
Yeah, I've had other chicken folks that have, when they've had the egg bound issue, they just warm bath with warm water, and it seems to relax enough to get everything going in the right direction. I've had 2 customers that have done that, so that's what I know of. I
So
wasn't sure.
it's if they've got more than one egg, and you can feel it in the back end. They're kind of built up there. I guess you could also probably put some Vaseline on, and you could push around the vent and possibly break one of those eggs. Or the warm water. Yeah.
How about for picking?
Picking?
Seeing as how they took all the stuff off the market that we used to use for that.
Well, there's still a stop pick spray.
But it's red, and I find the red attracts them. Because the blue coat is what we were
Blue,
using.
yeah, there was yeah, I know.
So I've suggested an easy iodine spray, just to change the color from red.
I'm not sure. Part of it is, so again, if they're not getting enough salt in their diet, they're going to find salt, and if it's their neighbor, like they're little dinosaurs, they'll happily eat their neighbor if they don't have enough salt. So if they've got a balanced ration, these guys are going to have a beak treatment, so they won't have really sharp beaks, and it's a tough one. Once they start picking, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
It's a bad. Once they get a behavior started, like eating eggs or picking each other, it's really hard to stop them. But don't use any of the gasoline-based products like tar. You'll see all sorts of crazy stuff. Please don't put that on your chicken.
If you use it on your child, you can use it on your chicken.
Oh, that's a good one.
So
Just
kind of,
to
just to
be nice.
summarize, so like egg bound being when there's either like more eggs than one and they're kind of competing to get out, or if there's just like a very, very large egg that is trouble getting out, then that can cause damage to the chicken. So what we were talking about last time was about taking a warm bath and just kind of you can even like help them relax a little bit. Massage, just, something that can kind of de-stress them. And Brandi was talking about last time that they actually quite love baths.
I got one customer, she baths her chickens, because she shows them and everything.
So that can just be a way, and especially if you see like any kind of infections around the vent is where the egg is going to come out. If you see any kind of like, if it's crusty or just like something that doesn't look super great, giving them that bath is really helpful. And then we were talking about just now.
And soap-wise, if you wanted to use a little bit of soap baby shampoo. You're in school.
What you give a kid, you give your chicken.
Safe for everything.
Kids are like your second round.
That
It's good for
too.
ducks, it's good for
Yeah.
chickens. And then we were just talking about what we just described. We were talking about egg bound, and then the other one was, if they're
Fumble
picking
foot.
each other. So keeping them entertained is really important too. So Donna was kind of talking about like different things that she was doing, whether it was just like a piece of cabbage and just kind of hanging it in there, and just something to kind of keep them entertained, because when they get bored, they definitely will be wanting to pick at each other. Yeah.
Yeah, with the cages that we have, we'll also hang some little metal, like a key ring tag almost, If you hang that, they can peck at that.
Just something to play with.
This is something they can peck at. Anything that you put on the wire, they'll peck at that.
Bird toys from the dollar store. Any of those kind of
Yeah,
things.
yeah, that's a good idea.
You can freeze stuff too. A lot of people will freeze like bits of veggies and stuff, and then you can hang it. And as it thaws, they pick it out. Cheap entertainment. Plus any of your household stuff, that helps with the proteins too. They say no tomato peels, potato peels. Potato peel, avocado peel, and citrus peels.
No to those?
No. You can feed onions and garlic if you want onion and garlic flavored eggs.
You want flavor for your eggs, you give them that, huh?
Yeah, you can flavor them up with anything. But they warned you, it'll taste like it. And I know I've had a few people that they wanted to add omega-3 to their diet, to the eggs, because they want to make omega-3 eggs. And how they did it was with fish oil, and they're like, but our eggs taste fishy now. Well,
And fish oil is
there's other ways to get omega-3 and it's not fish oil.
Yeah, the flax is super cheap too. Like
Black oil, sunflower seeds.
that too, yeah. All of those, because
That's huge
fish
one.
oil is very pricey.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Plus it's hard to make a chicken drink oil.
Yeah.
And you don't want to mess with pouring it on your feed and all that. Just easier to give them a handful of sunflower seeds. But you got to make sure they're the black oil kind, because those are the ones that are high in omega-3.
Sunflower seeds?
The black ones, just the ones that all the birds eat and stuff, because they're so soft, so that's why they prefer those shells. Like you'll see the gray striped shells, but I tend to only sell those for like blue jays and camp robbers and those kind of birds. Nothing, because the shells are so fibrous that like if you feed it to horses, because a lot of people feed black oil sunflower seeds to horses for the omega-3. And you can't feed the gray ones because it'll actually ball up and they can colic, because it's not as soft to shell. And there's more oil in the black ones versus the regular sunflowers as well.
The oil is where the good stuff's at.
And I had mentioned about bumblefoot, because every now and then some folks get that. My premise was clean it, neosporin it, wrap it. That's about all.
I don't know for chickens because I haven't treated them, but my roommate in vet school was a falconer, and we had a peregrine falcon that lived in our house who got bumblefoot a few times, and he used to soak it in warm water and just kind of debride it, like the way that, you know, I like this theme here about what you do for your kids. So, you know, but the soaking is the biggest piece, I think, yeah.
Keeping it soft.
Yeah, keeping it soft, and it's like a big callus, basically, right?
So bumblefoot is when they'll, if they step on something sharp, like if you do let them out, or if there's a nail or anything like that, that kind of cut, it just swells up like crazy. So to kind of decrease the swelling and reduce the callus dryness, just putting it in warm water and then putting some kind of a
Yeah,
spray
we just
on it.
use like neosporin, slather some of that on a little piece of that wrap or whatever. Or some gauze even tied crisscross. Just to keep it softened so that it'll eventually flatten out again. Because otherwise they wind up walking like that.
It just actually makes me realize, like, we can share information back through too, and if you're going to pick up the feed and you've got some questions, and if there's some pictures that are flying around, you just take a picture and say, hey, what's this? I like those too because I don't get a lot of backyard birds anymore, but I still teach the courses. And so if you've got some of those pictures, we can look at them and give our best advice, and then I can also, with your permission, I would take your picture and use it for teaching if we figure out what's going on.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to spend $300 on, 4 chickens, right? So it's some advice back and forth to help teach each other.
Yeah.
Thank you. And everybody had been saying that that Brandi was incredibly helpful all last year. So whenever I would call somebody from last year and just say like, hey, how are your chickens doing? And she's like, oh, we ran into this. I'm like, oh, what did you do? Like, what happened? She's like, oh, I just talked to Brandi about this story. So,
But I'm still learning too. I still ask questions.
and like things are always going to kind of, there's always more information, and you sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. So if certain people like aren't asking questions and then some come up like once you actually have them, that's super fine. And like Burton was able to just ask around people in the community. That was his first thing. Brandi's always available. Tom is now available, which is a super great resource. And yeah, the pictures would definitely help just from a teaching perspective. The more that we can kind of share all the information is really helpful, because if somebody's dealing with something that happens for your chickens, chances are it might be something that other people are dealing with too. So that's super, super helpful to do that. And I haven't had anything else kind of be for big issues. I like what Brandi said before about the eggs tell you a lot about your chicken's health. So she was noting that if you're picking up an egg and it's already breaking, or like your thumb is going to go through it, that egg isn't got enough calcium to it. So your egg shell really tells a lot, and the egg size tells about the protein. So you can already kind of get an idea of the protein and the calcium just by looking at the egg. And then when you look at your actual chicken, if it's molting, you can kind of have an idea if the nutrition is there.
And as your new chickens age too, their eggs will get better. Because when they first start, they're sad. And then they build up and get into regular laying. They get better looking.
I'm just thinking about the whole dynamic here, and I think the biggest challenge is going to be getting the chickens in a good environment and keep them warm. And one thing that might help you is a high-low thermometer. You know, those ones that tell you how low it got? Because if you've got one, it's whatever temperature is when you read it, but the high-low thermometer lets you know how cold it's getting at nighttime in different parts. They're pretty cheap, and I use those even in our fridges and coolers at work, just so you get a visual and you can see. You just hit the reset button. Does everyone know what I'm talking about, the high-low thermometer?
That's just
You sell them
digital,
at the-
isn't it? I don't.
You should.
I don't, but I
Yeah.
should look for them.
You just hit the reset, and it just, you know, when the thermometer goes up or down, it's going to push there's a little indicator.
Oh,
And it's going to
yeah,
show you
no
how
kidding.
high or how low it went. That'll help you figure out if you got the environment right, so that it's not just, oh, all my chickens froze.
Yeah.
If you could have seen it coming and you saw the temperature getting down, you could do
Oh,
the
Yeah.
blankets or some straw bales.
I got one of those on my lizard tank.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
And it'll tell you
Okay.
the last coldest temperature,
That's
and then
right.
it'll show you the
Yeah.
highest one. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are just darn handy, and they're
Okay.
pretty cheap.
Fridge freezer.
That's
Does that
good.
help at all?
Yeah, just like this. I mean, and then you just hit the reset, and it'll tell you what the highest and the lowest temperature was, because you're going to have some trouble figuring that out. You don't want your chicken to be
Yeah.
a thermometer.
And once you have them all in there, it's going to change.
They're going to add temperature. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, just using one like this. This just hangs in our fridge and freezers over at this kitchen. So it says like the warmest and the coldest. So -7 to -27 is kind of what this guy was at. So that, and then you just reset. What do you think? Okay, good.
Well, the nice thing is you guys are coming into normal weather, so
It's
you don't have to fight as hard till the fall.
Here's open. Yeah.
But at least, like with this here, with having the poultry mat, that gives you a better option, because with it shutting off itself, it's not just cooking chicken. And the nice thing with these feeders, so your water just is a clip-on, easy, old school, like they used to be. Biggest thing I say is, in the winter, make sure you don't drop this piece. Because that stuff gets so hard and it cracks immediately. And that's the last thing you need. And then with the feeder, because it's on it has this little spring doohickey here. Right there. So you can adjust it all the way down to where it just barely trickles out. Or you can, like if you're gonna go away for a couple days, you can fill it, and then that way they're not just gorging themselves. You can adjust it up and down in the flow, because it goes up and down the dish. And then that way, if you're gone, you can fill it up and they got enough food while you're gone, sort of thing. And you can go away, because usually they're pretty good. If your coop is good and that, you can 2-3 days, as long as you got somebody to grab eggs.
And Anthony Nursbach from like he's in the other session, so he mentioned about like powwows. So like we're going to be gone for powwows, like how long can we leave the chickens for? And so that's a really good tip if you're going to leave them at home. He actually had the question about can he bring them? So, cause he was also kind of thinking about even just doing like more like going out hunting and like getting really set up in the wilderness and being able to have chickens there as like, you know, we got some eggs, like ready to go.
We go camping for at least a month or two in the summer.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the perfect situation where Brandi was kind of saying like just a dog kennel, something that can kind of transfer them out, and then you can keep them in there, or you can deassemble the coop and re-put it back up. It's up to you guys. So as long as it's kind of got a spot where they can still lay the eggs. The coziest spot in the coop with the shavings and everything is typically going to be the place that they lay the eggs. So just kind of keeping that in mind. Even if you have like a side box, like a cardboard box that has a bunch of shavings in it, that's off to the side when you're traveling with your chickens, that's probably where they're going to start laying. So if you want it to be kind of outside of the kennel or whatever.
And how long will that, like, if you fill it full, how long will it keep?
It holds 11 pounds of feed. And what would their daily intake be? That's just basic.
Oh,
It's 150
126 grams or 130 grams?
Well, you have to go metric.
Well, if you have like 100,000 of them, you need to figure that out.
So chickens typically, it says like roughly 100 grams a day, but that's I think more talking about the white chickens. So white chickens don't eat as much, and they're not as hardy in the winter time. So brown chickens eat a little bit more, but they're hardier for the winter time, so they're probably going to have a little bit more than 100 grams. So you just basically would say 100 grams per chicken per day. Times however many chickens that you end up getting. If you decide to do 4 versus 5, and then top it up a little.
Yeah, that's a pound a day, so you get 11, you say
11 pounds.
Oh,
There you go, there's about 8, 9, 10 days.
tired of nothing in that tag.
And they won't gorge themselves over.
No, they just eat what they need.
Didn't.
If you need some supplemental feed too, I don't know if you end up with an egg, you know the egg trays for the bigger ones for 30 eggs? Those are nice for picking your eggs too, just to have, but you can also put feed in those if you want to add some supplemental feed. Those will work as a good cheap feeder.
Yeah, this month is going to be like that month to start collecting cartons for yourselves so that you can kind of have places to put them. I have some extras too, just in case. And from the food market, like the Fresh Fruits company has the one worker there. She just keeps bringing out cartons for us, and then I've been saving some at home. So just so that you do have extra places, because even Donna, she has like a whole separate fridge like just for eggs. Last time I was over there, so it's quite nice. Yeah.
Your idea to put this in the barn and then maybe have a little dog door or a cat door so they can get out, that's exactly what I would do, because it's easy to keep that a little bit warmer. Or snuggle this right up against the side of the house or in a corner. I think that's going to be your biggest challenge, is keeping these guys warm in the beginning.
Yeah.
And
Coming out of the barn.
but they're fun. Chickens are fun.
Yeah.
Eggs are good.
Yeah.
And the 4-H club even did a chicken agility club.
How did they make that? I talked to them last year, but I didn't.
Oh, it was hysterical. They have a video that you can actually pull up online, 4-H chicken agility, and it's hysterical. They did a whole little music video to it and everything.
And when you mentioned that, I thought that we were talking about like humans using chickens for agility, like Rocky Balboa, like that's what I was thinking that it was about, but it's no, it's for chicken
No,
agility.
it was actually them doing it. They had little jumps and little teeter-totters and all.
Like a dog show kind of thing. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Any other kind of questions at all? Kind of walking through even like just like a typical day of like, you know, waking up in the morning before you guys, if you guys are going to work or anything, like let's say you do have a really busy schedule, that waking up in the morning, grabbing the eggs in the morning is typically when you'll see them, and then just checking in on to make sure that the chickens look all right, they got water, they got feed, coming back home, checking if there's any more eggs, and then if they have water and feed, and making sure that the water isn't frozen, and that putting the water on that heat pad, I don't know if you mentioned that. But
Yeah, you can, what we were thinking for in the winter is you can set your water on the corner of the heated pad, and then that'll usually is enough to keep them open, rather than having to buy a whole, another heated water and everything, and another cord and another plug. So we're trying to figure out the best way to cover all the bases. So we figure with this, at least the plastic can sit on this because it's safe, and then that way it should keep it thawed, and then with the
They're not gonna peck at that mat and like rip it up?
It's covered, it's sealed, they can't do anything to it, it's like completely enclosed. And now that I said that, the one chicken that might actually get through, you never know, but yeah, they're, like it's a lock and dry compatible, so it won't, if you spilled water on it, it wouldn't seep in or anything, because it has been sealed.
Because I have an extra heating pad that went underneath my lizard's cage.
Mm-hmm.
Can I use that one too?
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah, as far as I
Just
know.
make
I'm
sure
not
you
sure if those,
disinfect it, because your lizards and your.
No, it went underneath the glass.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
because they all have salmonella.
yeah.
yeah. Was it a thermostatic?
And it just plugs in and then
Just plugs in and then
heats up.
plugs. So that one you'd probably want to do on the timer kind of thing,
Okay.
just to turn it on when the real cold part.
Yeah, I've
hits.
got one of those too for the lizard
Yeah.
cage.
I had another customer, he actually bought one of the cookie tins from the dollar store, drilled a hole in the side of it and did the old light bulb
Okay.
inside the cookie tin, and that was his heater for his water. He could set the plastic water on top of it. And I mean, that's going back old school to the,
There's a lot of stuff
trouble
on
lights
YouTube
and
too
stuff.
now. Oh, that's, especially after what happened in Texas last year. A lot of people were putting stuff on YouTube's ideas on how to heat your home and whatnot.
Oh, yeah, that, yeah.
Because it all froze, yeah.
One of the participants last week said that, I think that it was last week, said about the extension cords and their dogs.
Oh,
So
yeah.
be mindful of like the extension cord that we're giving you guys. Just if your dogs are okay with having those around. My friend's dog that we were taking care of, that she loves iPhone like cords, like so that's just her favorite toy in the entire world. So just making sure that you have them out and that and then they aren't going to be chewing through the extension cords up there.